So, Coach Storniolo, I really appreciate you jumping on here with me. And as always, love to get you guys on here to talk about the team in the upcoming season. So, to get it started, I want to talk about the off season. How was the off season for you guys? And how do the guys look coming back in after another year of experience and another year of just like growth?
Yeah, I think it was a productive off season for us. We do a 5 week optional training block in the summer, and had just about all the guys back for that. Got to get our incoming new guys up here for the summer to get acclimated and put in some good work. And it's been a solid preseason. We've got a nice mix of some really old guys. We got a couple of 6 year guys back for the season, and then you're going to see a couple of new faces to line up this year. So a little bit old, a little bit of new, but feel pretty good about things going into the new year.
Yeah, starting with the new guys, how have they taken to a new regimen, and have you seen, those older guys kind of take them under their wing and show them, this is how we do things?
Yeah, one of the things that we're proudest of with our program is the culture, and we've got high character, quality young men. And it's to a point now where it's kind of a self-feeding machine
Mhm.
where the young guys come in, the older guys take them under their wing. The young guys learn how we do things here, and they've assimilated really well. And I think especially these last two incoming classes, which have been pretty big classes, they're lights out in all areas. They are responsible, they're on top of things, their work ethic is right where you'd want it to be, or even a little bit better than you would expect for young guys coming in. So excited to have some of those guys see in the lineup this year. And I think the results are about to get back to where we're used to them being with this program.
Mhm. So let's start with the older guys that have been in the lineup before. And I want to start with Frankie Talshahar, who was out last year on a medical, but now he's back. How's he been, and how have
Oh
things
man,
been?
so this is a tough one. Frankie, he's probably not, well, he's not going to be back with the program right now.
Yeah.
Um, he hasn't been able to get back to healthy, and so he's in the process of his medical hardship going through.
Mhm.
So tough time for Frankie, and it's a tough time for us as a program because he's a guy that if healthy, he's in the hunt for a national title. So that was a tough blow.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean you have other two-time qualifiers. You got Trumbull, you've got Mayfield. How have those guys stepped up in the offseason, and how have you seen them take that next step so that they're not just qualifiers, that they're all Americans?
Yeah, and those are the guys that you need to lean on to be the leaders of your program, and they're doing just that. And then having Chris Cannon come back, who was one of the leaders, then he stepped away from the program for a year, but he's back, and he's already refilling those shoes that he once filled as a leader on the team. And so, yeah, you lean on those older guys to lead by example and to keep the young guys in check and showing them what to do and how to do it.
Mhm. Yeah, and you talked about Cannon. I want to get to him. Him coming back was huge, right? We saw the video. We saw you guys announce that. That was obviously a very big deal. He's been on the podium a couple of times wearing the purple, and now he's back in the purple after being away for a year. How did that come about? Did he kind of reach out to you guys, or was it, we know Chris is out there and he's somebody that has been a leader in this program. If we can bring him back into the program, let's go and get him.
Yeah. So when Chris entered the portal, it was a great opportunity. And once he did, he did reach out. He reached out. And I don't want to share too many of the details with of the conversation we had. I think that was pretty personal between me and Chris, but we had a pretty close relationship. And so yeah, when he came in and said he wanted to look at other programs, that it stung on a lot of levels. It stung obviously from a team competitive standpoint. To lose a two-time All-American is a tough pill to swallow. And then for me, having that close relationship with Chris, it added to it.
Mhm.
But I've got to give Chris a lot of credit for the maturity he showed in making that phone call to initiate things, and the way he's handled this whole situation. And I think for Chris, what it ultimately boiled down to was this was home for him. This was a place that he really felt comfortable on all levels. He felt comfortable in the wrestling room. He had a relationship with his head coach that didn't quite get replicated at the new place. And I think there was some frustration on his part with how his season had ended before he decided to go to Michigan.
Mhm.
And just the fact that Chris stepped away from us, went to another program, and then wanted to come back, I think that speaks volumes to the environment that we have here, the culture that we have, and we're a different program than any other Big Ten program and most programs in the country. And there are certain aspects of Northwestern wrestling that you just can't compare with other places. And it's unfortunate that Chris had to go somewhere else to realize just how special this is here. But if he is going to leave, next best thing that happens is he comes back, and we're thrilled to have Chris back.
Mhm. What kind of intensity and just presence has he brought back to the room since, like you said, stepping away and seeing how things are in a different place, and now coming back and realizing that's where he wanted to be? How have you seen him change in that year away, and what has he brought back into the room?
Uh, I talked about his maturity. I think that is the biggest difference in Chris. He has truly matured. And when he first came back, I think didn't take him long, but I think it took him a little bit to really feel comfortable. And some of the guys on the team were kind of razzing him a little bit for not being here last year and kind of referring to him as a new guy or a transfer. And so at the beginning, I'd say with Chris, it was a lot of leading by example. He has a work ethic. He is not afraid to push it in the room, and he was being that leader by example for these younger guys. And then once he kind of reacclimated, got more comfortable being back, he's stepped it up where he is a verbal leader as too, or a verbal leader for us too. And so yeah, he's doing a great job, and I'm really excited to get him back in the lineup, and really excited to finish our unfinished business.
Yeah. So you have some young guys that are around his weight class, guys at 125, guys at 49 that hadn't been in the lineup for you in the past that can potentially see some time this year as starters. How have they started to grow, and what makes them ready to be starters for you this year at 25 and 49?
Yeah. Now some of it is having guys like Chris around and Trevor Chumley, guys that are older and great workout partners for these young guys, and getting them ready to come into a Big Ten schedule,
Mhm.
right? They're wrestling with quality guys in the room. The young guys' work ethics, like I talked about earlier, they're great. And then for guys like Diedrich Navarro coming in at 125, him and Chris have been great in the room together. And Diedrich's like a sponge. You've got Sam Cartella coming in the lineup at 149, and Sam was probably ready for the lineup last year. He had two wins in the two Big Ten duels that we put him in. One was a Tech Fall, one was pretty dang close to being a Tech Fall. He had a win over an All-American last year at the NCAA, went on to be an All-American at the NCAA tournament. So, um, yeah, Sam could have been ready last year, but made sense to keep him in his red shirt. Aiden Vandenbush had done a ton of work to get down to 149. Um, so we needed to stand by Aiden and give him the opportunity that he had earned.
Mhm.
But I feel like these new guys coming into the lineup are going to hit the ground running and really round out the places that we need them to round out, where we don't have those older guys in the lineup, the guys with experience, guys like Chris Cannon, Trevor Chumley, Max Mayfield, Evan Bates coming back, who was a qualifier for us last year at 197.
Yeah. And speaking of Cartella, you say he was ready for the probably the starting lineup last year, but you kept him in his red shirt, and he had a healthy redshirt season. He wrestled probably more than a lot of starters. He had, what, about over 30 matches. When he has a redshirt season like that and he puts in that sort of work, why did he want to take on that kind of a workload? Like that I said, like is probably more than some of the starters.
Yeah, well, as a red shirt, you're competing mostly in opens.
Yeah.
And so if you're doing really well and winning matches, it doesn't take very many opens to get up to 30 matches. If
Mhm.
you're wrestling 5 or 6 matches at an open, you're there in, 5 competitions. So Sam just he maxed out on his opportunities to compete, and he's a guy that he loves to wrestle. So you don't want to really pull back on a kid like that, especially in that redshirt season where the goal is to get experience, get mat time, and get used to wrestling grown men instead of high school boys. So uh, yeah, Sam just took advantages of his opportunities. He won a lot of matches, and that's what you want to see.
Yeah. And then, you talked about Navarro as well at 125, who bumped up twice to wrestle 133 during some matches, during some dual meets, but he also had a really healthy redshirt season last year. How have you seen him grow and how do you know he's ready to be in the lineup at 125?
Yeah, well, with Diedrich, he got a little bit of a late start last year. He had a pretty good lower body injury early on in the season, and it kept him out of practice for quite a while. So he was playing catch up the first half of the season, didn't have some of the results that he had hoped to have in the first couple of competitions. He got a really rough draw at Midlands and lost to two quality guys early on in that tournament. But his attitude, it's awesome and it's infectious. It's such a good attitude for such a young guy, and he's not afraid to put in the work. He takes great advantages of the resources around him, of the coaching staff, of the older guys on the team. And he's a guy that gets every everything out of every workout. And then, like you mentioned, he had an opportunity to step into the lineup at 133 last year for a couple of those Big Ten duels and didn't bat an eye at it. Not only did he step into the lineup at 133, he had to weigh in at like 127 so that he could get back down for an open the next week. And then when he was in the lineup, had that opportunity, he had a win over a guy that was an NCAA qualifier, had a win at the NCAA tournament up at 133. And so, you like to think that if a guy in his redshirt season is bumping up a weight, giving up 5 pounds or so to an opponent, and he can beat him, and that's an NCAA qualifier, that guy's ready for the lineup at 125.
Yeah. Now, some other parts of your lineup, 74 and 84, and then also at heavyweight, going to see some new faces there. Who are those guys that we're potentially going to see, and what is it about them that makes them ready?
Yeah, well, for some of those guys, there's a little bit of competition at the weight class, right? So I'd say the front runners for 174, you've got Joe Martin and you've got Aiden Vandenbush, which it's kind of wild that Aiden put in all that work to get down to 149 last year,
Yeah.
but this year you could see him in the lineup at 174. But Aiden is a kid that he wants to take advantage of any opportunity he has to get in the lineup and compete. And that's what you want to see. And then you've got Joe Martin that has dealt with a couple of injuries the last couple of seasons, one in his redshirt season, one last year. But if Joe can stay healthy, he's got a ton of talent and he's a competitor. So with those two guys battling back and forth for that spot, hopefully, they get the most out of each other, and the guy that's in the lineup there is ready to take advantage of that opportunity. 184 is a little bit of a unique opportunity or unique situation in having John Halverson come back for a sixth year. He's a
Mhm.
guy that's been an important part of this program for a long time now, but his contributions have been in the wrestling room as a great workout partner, um, and then filling in when we would need to call his number. And John's always been ready when he's gotten an opportunity, but it's a tough sport to go through for 5 years without getting an opportunity to be the guy. Um, he's been the guy that's there for other guys, but this year it's his turn. And so we're excited that John is back for a sixth year. And we're excited that he finally has an opportunity to to be the guy at that weight class. And then, yeah, you've got Dirk Morley up at heavyweight, and Dirk's a big, strong man. We're going to have Joe Rao back with us this season. He had taken a hiatus last year when he made that big push for the Olympics, and getting Joe back in the room on a daily basis is going to be huge for Dirk.
Yeah. So yeah, Dirk, from what I see, is the only guy that you have listed on your roster as at 285. So it's a little thin up top, but him and Bates obviously will be battling with Joe Rao in the room.
Mm-hmm.
But how do they continue to grow with such limited partners? Like I said, I understand Joe Rao is there, but it's got to be tough when you're going with the same guys over and over and over again. There's not a ton around you in the room.
I think it's how you develop them, right? And people probably said the same thing back when Mike McMullen was here.
Yeah.
Our biggest assistant at that time was Jay Borschel, who far from a heavyweight, but Mike was one of the best heavyweights ever to compete in the NCAA. So just because you don't have as many workout partners doesn't mean that you can't be quality.
Mhm.
And it's about maximizing their potential, them growing as wrestlers and students in the room, and then applying it to competition.
Yeah. So one of the other things you mentioned earlier was your schedule, and these young guys getting ready for the Big Ten grind. You've got dual meets against Illinois, Michigan, Minnesota, and Iowa, as opposed to the other out of conference type tournaments that you also have. That Big Ten grind is big. It's huge. It's really, really hard to wrestle in the Big Ten, as we all know. How have you gotten your guys ready in the offseason, and how have they showed that they're ready to take on such a grind of a season with so many big time teams?
Yeah, I mean, it's business as usual. It's not like this is our first year in the Big Ten and
Mhm.
first time we're going through this. It's normal. And a lot of the guys, about half the lineup, they've seen this before. They're used to it. And those new guys coming in, they're going to face some adversity. It's impossible not to, competing in the type of schedule that we carry, but you keep getting better every week, and each week's a new opportunity. And as long as you approach it like that, it's the same as the way you eat an elephant, right? It's one bite at a time. And if you look at the whole schedule and you try to wrestle the whole thing at once, yeah, that's pretty tough. But focus is on what's in front of you, and what's in front of you is the next competition, and that's the most important competition of the weekend or the week. And then once you hit it, it's over, and now it's shifting focus on that next one. And the way we're going to have our success is the same way we've always had our success here, and that's maximizing the potential of the guys in the room and getting them to their top end by developing them on a week in and week out basis, not just letting them go out there, beat each other up in practice, and then compete, right? It's about that development piece.
Yeah. So some I want to go back to, you mentioned that Frankie is still battling injury. Who's going to be in that spot for you? Or you got a couple of guys battling at 41?
Yeah, we'll see with Frankie out of the lineup. It potentially opens an opportunity to move things around a little bit and space it out so that we are getting back to our most balanced team. So you might see some guys that are going up a weight or coming down a weight, but that's still in the works.
Still in the works. Still in the works. All right, coach. Well, to kind of put a bow on everything, I've been asking coaches about just development of their wrestlers and specifically their freshmen. And, we mentioned the Big Ten it's a grind. And luckily there's a rule in wrestling. I believe it's also in football where these athletes they have those 5 different dates that they're allowed to wrestle and attached. How have you seen your team really take advantage of that? Or at least your freshmen take advantage of that? And how have you seen that be an advantage of having these guys be able to get thrown into the fire, not just in opens, but travel with the team and be in dual meets and really get to experience what it's like to be in the lineup?
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity for the guys that have a chance to come into the lineup and compete. It's also a great opportunity for the programs, right? If you've got a guy battling an injury and you've got an opportunity to get a red shirt in there to get a little bit of experience, let that guy get back to healthy, that's huge too. So I love the rule. Glad that we made that change. And for us, it worked out great last year. Now, I think we only really took advantage of it with two different guys, with Diedrich and with Sam.
Mhm.
But their record was we went 3 for 4, right? Sam was 2-0, Diedrich was 1-1, and that's huge experience for them. And then it was good for us as a program to have guys like that step in and get W's for us that went on to help us win duels.
That's awesome, Coach. Well, to wrap everything up, I want to ask you, what can we expect from your team this year? You, like you said, you have a mix of some older guys that have been there and been on the podium and have done some really high level things, and then some new faces that are going to be in the lineup consistently for the first time. What can we expect from Northwestern this year?
I think we're going to be a little bit scrappier than than most people might expect. After the season we had last year, guys have a chip on their shoulder, which they should. And we're excited to see that come out in competition. And I think we're going to be a program that has a steady rise throughout it. There's going to be a little bit of an adjustment for some of these guys being in the lineup on a week in and week out basis, but we're going to continue to develop throughout the season. We're going to get tougher, more experience, and we're going to be a team that's rising and not one that plateaus.
Awesome, Coach. Well, I appreciate you sitting down talking with me about the team and the upcoming season. I look forward to seeing everything that you guys have in store for us this year. And good luck, and I'll definitely be seeing you soon.
I appreciate it. Have a good one.